Uh, Chase, you're trying for the he's a console. You just flip it on and it fucking works. Uh, us PC gamers over here can just click one fucking button and tell you our hour count. What kind of app bullshit do you got to download? What kind of PlayStation Portal do you need just to learn this bullshit?
All right, here's I played a lot of Metaphor between the last episode and this episode, and I wanted to talk about Metaphor. And I thought, a good way of talking about this, because the last time we talked about it,
because it's like what, 2 episodes away?
Yeah, isn't it like 1 episode away? Like after this,
we have the Game of the Year, Game Awards.
Oh, right, we have the Keeleys. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I should talk about Metaphor and maybe show my hour count, because like the last time we talked about it, I had what, like 10-15 hours in it or something like that, and I was like, oh, let's see, because it's like upwards of 50 now, and I'm like, well, I don't want to turn on my PS5. It's on this TV. One, it would be very bright. Two, we're about to start the fucking show.
You just a comedy of errors over there.
It is. So here's what I thought. I was like, okay, I can sign into PSN on my computer, and maybe there's something about an hour count. And so Sony asked for my sign-in ID and my password, and okay, that's all done. And then it said, hey, by the way, we need to send you a verification code on your email, and just type that in. I was like, great, no problem.
Hate it.
So I click off the tab, I get the verification code, I click back onto the tab, and it goes, oh, something went wrong. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'll just try it again. So I start to sign in, password, email, password, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We sent you an email with a verification code. Okay, so I go get the new verification code. I come back and it says something went wrong. Sony's, for whatever reason, like clicking off that tab immediately makes the page break. I'm like, well, fuck, that doesn't work. So then Bobby's like, oh, well, you try your app. Which I had to re-download because my phone's like, you don't use that fucking app. And I was like, I know I don't use that fucking app.
I hate this.
Yeah, here's what I'm gonna do. I wanted to just turn on the console, but that means I need to go get a remote that's over there. I'm doing it. I need to know. Bobby, you can start the show, but I need to know my hour count in Metaphor.
Well, not a lot's changed after 400 episodes, folks. It has been a journey. This is the 400th episode, and Chase just froze again. He's freezing a lot. He's having some internet issues on top of trying to figure out hour count. Hang on, you froze up again. Is your internet good?
Yeah. It's not the internet. It's my monitor, because it's also connected to this TV.
No. You were like back there in the corner and you froze.
Yeah, because I turned on the TV with the remote.
Oh, okay.
And it fucked up the monitors. It'll be fine. Everything's still fine. Nothing is fucked here, dude.
All right. So it's episode 400, if you can believe
Yay!
it. You would
A
think that we would
decade of
be
excellence.
a lot better at this by this point in time. But Chase, I prepared a few little things
Wait,
that I thought.
Did I just freeze again?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's the PlayStation turning on, which is also connected to this monitor and this
God,
television.
we are on a house of cards here tonight. If we make it through this, it'll be a fucking miracle.
I
all right.
did remember to mute the television, so you're welcome. That's something.
Here's a few little other fun things that are 400. First of all, Chase, this supposed Nintendo fan of the show, what's the 400th Pokemon in the Pokedex?
Oh, god damn it. Fuck.
No cheating.
Yeah, no cheating. Also, this won't show, but it's 47 and a half hours on Metaphor ReFantazio now.
You've almost doubled me.
That feels pretty good. I thought I was over 50 though, for sure. Okay. 400th Pokemon.
Yep.
I won't get this right, but I think I can get somewhere close. So 251 is End of Gold and Silver.
Yeah.
And I think we just added like another 100 or so in Ruby Sapphire. So I'm going to say somewhere around 351 is the end of Ruby and Sapphire. So that means we're definitely going to be in Gen 4, Diamond and Pearl times.
And I will give you one hint, and one hint only.
Okay.
It is an evolution.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking maybe it was Spiritomb, and that doesn't have an evolution, so that helps me. Gen 4 is an evolution. God, how much do I remember about Diamond and Pearl?
You know that the remake sucked ass.
I do remember that. I'm trying to actually remember. That was the last time I played any of these, so I'm trying to remember that Nuzlocke I did. And remember who the fuck is in it. God, that's so difficult.
All right, it's B-Barrel.
Guess B-Barrel. Wow, so it's an early one. It's like the Rattata of.
Yep.
Okay. Because I think at that point I was going to go with a bird like Staraptor or something, which has to be in that ballpark.
That's our bird.
Yeah, man, 400 is B-Barrel. Damn.
So another little fun little tidbit of the 360 era of the Xbox, 400 points were often the gamer score cap for smaller Xbox Live Arcade games. So
that makes sense. Yeah, you don't want
our cap, but could be for others.
Yeah. You don't want to let the kids get too many gamer points.
No, not at all. What was another one here? Eating a ghost is worth 400 points in Pac-Man. Pretty cool.
Sure. Can you name the ghosts?
No, I cannot do that.
Come on, Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde.
Well, thank you. I'll stick with my B-Barrel.
Clyde's the orange one.
So let's see here. Apparently, I don't know if I remember this one or not, but the timer for 8-bit era classic NES games was 400 seconds. That's where it'd cap out at on timers back in those. So
interesting.
Again, we're not capping out here on ours.
It's certainly not at 400 seconds. Can you imagine an episode of the Casual Hour that's 400 seconds long?
I mean, some people would wish for it. But it is a December preview, and I will go ahead and just throw this out there right now. December is a wild card month, much like June was for us. There's always the Keeley up your sleeve, and you never know what that little fucker's going to pop out and give you. So there could be something that's announced and released last year. I think the big, not so surprising drop was the finals that came out tonight, as well as Baldur's Gate 3 for the Xbox. And Chase, speaking of Baldur's Gate 3, boy howdy, do I have some news for you, my friend. Casual Mondays might get a whole lot more exciting because they are rolling out cross-play. And, we could have an epic run, you and I.
We could, but can you imagine playing that game for an hour a week for for however many weeks it takes?
Based off my original playthrough, it would take us 120 weeks to beat that game.
That's over 2 years, Bobby.
No time like the present, baby. Anyway, I
That's
thought
a
that was
thought.
fun.
It's
And
a
the other cool
thought.
thing about it for you is they're adding 12 new subclasses to
Okay.
each class, and there's some very, very cool classes coming. So
How many subclasses were there before?
Oh, there's a lot, motherfucker. There's a lot because you can multi-class too. So
God.
you're gonna feast. But it is episode 400. Chase, I want to start off by saying thank you to you for sticking it out.
Thank you to you.
This has been a lot of fun. We've got some really awesome ideas that we're going to talk to you about in like 4 episodes. About
Now, neither of us have actually been on all 400 episodes, right?
No, I would say that we are obviously the longest running and the most.
Well, sure.
Yeah, Johnny was hard enough to be here when he was here.
Yeah, but like you had, I can't remember when you took a break. Did the show take a break, or did Johnny and I keep going?
There was only one time that you both did it. I watched it.
My Super Robot Wars X PowerPoint presentation.
I'll tell
Jiggy
you what
was here.
though, prior to Jiggy was there. Prior to us being live with this, you two would it was much easier because you two would just record it and give me the audio and I'd edit that.
Sure.
So, but yeah, there was one time where Johnny hosted an Age of Empire stream. I think I was in Carbondale, Illinois, and I watched you two do that stream.
Was that a Wednesday?
Was
that for the show?
No. It was like a Friday night thing. We had just started streaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
I mean, this is history that we've gone over many times before, but I didn't start here. I was not here episode 1. I was here at like episode 3 or something.
Episode, I think 2. Like it didn't
really?
take long. Yeah. Johnny and I did one episode together, and that was about as good as you would expect it to be. And then he's like, "We need a third person here. I don't know what I'm fucking doing." I'm like, "Yeah, me either. Let's get somebody in here." And he's like, "I know a guy."
You had Patrick. Yeah, you had a lot of friends to pull from. And then you realized only one of them was good at podcasting.
Well, Patrick started, and then he immediately quit. He had some cool music shit open up, and then we had one dude that we worked with that ended up being a real piece of shit dirtbag in life.
That was me.
like did some very inappropriate things. Bad.
Oh, okay, that wasn't me.
No, and we landed on you, and you just took to us very much so, and we appreciated it.
Hey, you're like, this guy knows how to podcast. He might be good for the show. And the finger on the monkey's paw curled.
Tokyo Mirage. What?
Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE.
The Witcher. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. God, I remember the Witcher era.
Episode 400. It's weird, like, not to be too self-congratulatory, but this certainly has lasted longer than I thought, and it does not happen without effort. And it takes a toll, and it takes, obviously, it's been
we've adapted a number of times. Like you said, the show was audio only at one point. It was recorded. You pushed us to make the switch to live video on Twitch. Which was certainly tough and had some growing pains. You've done so much design stuff for the show, the amount that we've spread into different social media sites and all the work you've done there, us doing quick looks, us slowing down on doing quick looks, all the Game of the Year shows, going to that fucking CC's Pizza. Beautiful. Just we've had a lot of really fun times and a lot of growth over the course of the show. We've both moved houses over the course of the show. It's a lot. It's fun. It's great.
And you know what's crazy about it, like, not that this stuff matters, but we are not a very popular show, and for us to like keep doing this in a way, I mean, like, we definitely have a nice little corner of the internet carved out for us, but
how dare you?
What I would say is like, for a hobby that requires a schedule and requires like effort on planning and just sacrifice in areas, like I'm just thrilled that we have allowed this to be the vessel of friendship that it has. And I mean, look, Jiggy's in the chat with us, and this is super cool to have them here. Jiggy has become somebody that I just adore in my life, and I wouldn't have known Jiggy without the casual hour. And
awesome friend.
I think that's such a cool thing, like, to meet people and to get to experience new things. Like, my palette has changed completely over 400 episodes of like what I look for in a game, and
I've rubbed off on you.
And yes, you have. And good night to you, Jiggy. I hope you have a wonderful night. Love you too, friend.
Bye, Jiggy.
Let's catch up soon and have a proper just hang out and see what's going on.
Yeah.
But tonight we have a handful of games to tell you about. Chase has been playing a lot of stuff. He's been on the go.
I've been gaming.
I have been gaming as well. Let's check in on a few things really quick because I've got some exciting things to share there. I beat Dragon Age, Chase. And
that's good. What was your final hour count?
71.4 hours.
Why don't you just open Steam and find
I did. 71.4. I got all the endings and outcomes I wanted. There is a forced death in the suicide mission that they have near the end of that game that you just like, you have some choice on who that will be, but you will lose somebody in that game. But I did not lose anybody else. And, all in all, I think
so. It's like a Caden Ashley situation.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
gotcha.
I think the writing is very weak in that game, which sucks. But the game looks and plays incredible. It's some of the best action I've had in a game in a long time, and the story is fine. It continues what you would expect from Dragon Age if you follow that lore. It certainly leaves some things up in the air about where it could go. And I think Rook was a really fun character that you get to occupy in this. And I did appreciate my party quite a bit at the end of it. But I just think that this felt very much like an MCU level of writing. And going from games like The Witcher and kind of just where RPGs have really evolved since Dragon Age came around, I think that like I kind of expected more from BioWare on that front because that's what they're known for. So I was a bit let down by the writing overall, but it did not temper the overall enjoyment of that game for me by too much. The other thing I'll let you know, I've pretty much moved over exclusively to mobile for Balatro, and that is a terrible thing. I've played so much Balatro on my phone, and I wanted to let everybody know that's listening. I just saw today, actually, just moments before we recorded tonight, you can go to Fangamer and you can pre-order a physical deck of cards of Balatro that will be shipping in March of 2025 for $16. So I pulled the trigger on that, and I've got Balatro cards coming my way. So
very cool.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to try and figure out. I might end up buying another pack, and I might do like a shadow box or do something to put up here with all the like cards mounted that way. But yeah, that is a very kick-ass thing that's out there right now. Of course, as I promised when I completed Dragon Age, I was going to get back to another game that you've been spending a lot more time with. But I'm at 25 hours in Metaphor, and I just unlocked a bunch of second-tier classes for the characters, and I'm really digging like a lot of that. Like that game just fucks so hard. It's so goddamn good.
Yeah, mechanically, I think it's really cool. I will tell you at 47 and a half hours, I have one tier 3 class unlocked, but I'm still mostly
Which one
around. I have Stroll's final one.
Is it it's the Royal, right? Is that?
No, I mean it goes warrior to swordmaster to samurai is the elite one.
Okay,
and it's samurai is pretty cool.
I think swordmaster is really fucking rad.
Swordmaster is pretty cool too. Like starting to be able to do like slash damage to all enemies is really nice. I will say the further you get in the game, the more you'll come up against mixed groups of enemies, some of which repel or block physical damage while others don't, and so you like using those hit everybody moves sometimes comes back to bite you. But there is also some times where it's just like, I can just use Stroll and do this giant slash and it kills everything on a single turn. That's great, I'll use that.
How are you liking where the game goes outside of the combat at 50 hours in?
Story-wise, it's still stupid, man. It's still so fucking stupid. I think so many decisions in this game, from a story perspective, make no sense until you get to a point, and it just feels like everything kind of falls in your lap. Or it's like, we don't know why we're doing this, and it's like, I guess we just accidentally fell into a reason of why we're doing this. Or it's like we don't know how to kill this guy, and we're gonna go do this other mission, I don't know, just because. And then that mission's like, you can kill that guy now, and you're like, well, that's convenient. and it doesn't feel as focused and logical as something like a Persona 4, where it's like, okay, a murder happened or like a mystery
Yeah.
happened and we're trying to figure out the mystery, and that's taking us logically from A to B to C to D. This kind of just feels like, hey, we're gonna do stuff and maybe it helps, and then it accidentally does because that's what the story needs at the time. And it's silly. It is silly.
I'd be very curious to hear you talk in 2024. It's not going to happen, I don't think, but I would love to be able to hear you compare Persona 3 Reloaded to Metaphor.
Yeah, I would also love to play Persona 3. I played a tiny bit of Persona 3, not Reloaded, but on the PSP. And I didn't get super far into it. I didn't love it, but I'd already played 4 at that point, so it felt kind of like a step back mechanically.
That's how I felt
Um,
going to 4 after playing 5 as my first one.
Totally, which is I feel real bad that you started with 5. I really wish you'd played 4 before, but
I'm hoping
it
they
makes
remake
sense.
it. I think they'll remake it.
I guess they could. I mean, if they did it with 3, they could certainly do it with 4.
3 looked
Um,
just like 5 visually. It looked fantastic. The
yeah,
Reloaded one did. I mean, it looked
yeah,
really good.
yeah. I mean, I could see them giving to a similar treatment to 4. But I am really loving so many other
Yeah,
aspects of
it's
Metaphor. I think the
fantastic.
moment to moment writing is pretty good. I like a lot of the characters. Um,
Do you have a favorite
I
party member?
I do, and I kind of just got a second favorite one just now.
Okay.
And I still have one left to get, and I know who it is, and I'm not excited about it. But at least I know who it is, I guess. But yeah, I think there's some really good characters. They might show up in a kind of best
Yeah,
character,
I
best new
kind of figured.
character category potentially. We'll see.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot of fun moments in there. I really do like the class mixing and the being able to take
That stuff's
skills
so much
from
fun. That's
the,
so
the
much
yeah, the
fun.
skill inheritance stuff is really cool.
Agreed.
Um, I'm having a lot of fun with that. I think there are a lot of like combat mechanics that also feel really nice. I like the way of, in Persona you'd have the one more times
Yeah.
by hitting a weakness, and you have a similar kind of thing here. But I like the way they have these pips for the amount of actions you can take, and by getting kind of the one more times, you can extend that, but not forever.
Yeah.
But it does make it. I've gotten to a point where I'm pretty over leveled for some fights, and you just kind of hit them and you don't even go into the fight. You just immediately kill
Yeah.
them and you pick up a little experience. And that's nice. I don't mind just like flying through some dungeons and killing things that way.
Totally.
But then there are also these kind of medium fights that you do that's like, we're gonna make you do the fight. We know that you could basically kill these guys. It's just we're going to make you go through the motions. And I like those fights because they're always solvable in a way, or they always feel solvable in that I could take out all these guys in one turn, and then you get this unscathed bonus by
Yep.
not taking any damage from an enemy, and you get extra experience and extra money and all that stuff. And so it becomes a little puzzle for me in those fights to find a way to kill everything in one turn. And that's fun as well. And then the boss fights are fun because they're a bigger, longer battle. And I'm really enjoying the kind of mix of those three types of battles. It's a lot of fun. I'm just
Yeah.
really
I'm having a
enjoying a
great time
lot of
with
the
it.
things that they're doing in that game, and
I
I just want to keep on playing it.
I'm with you. I have another issue that's keeping me from playing. I'll talk about it in a minute, but I do want to
Okay.
time check us just because we're at the half hour almost.
Yeah, yeah.
And we got.
Yeah, I'm going to keep on playing Metaphor. I highly doubt I will finish it before Game of the Year,
I don't
but
think I will.
I damn will try. I damn well will try.
For sure. But you've been playing some other shit, man. What do you got going on here?
It's true. Yeah, so I had to leave Metaphor for a while because that was on my PS5, and I went to go see family for Thanksgiving, and wasn't going to take my PlayStation there, so I just had my Switch with me. But I also had a big buildup of Switch games that I'd
Yeah,
been meaning to
man.
get around to. So this was a really nice excuse to play some of these things I wanted to play. So I'll go through the quick ones early. I started to play 1,000 times Resist, 1,000
Yeah,
X
that's like this
Resist.
visual novel narrative heavy, right?
Yeah, and I've been hearing a lot of great things about the
Same.
story, and
People are
I
losing
really
their
wanted to
fucking
try it
mind on
out.
that game.
I had this downloaded for a long time ago based on
I asked you
some
about
friend
this. I'm like, have you
recommendations.
heard about this? Like, yeah, I have it. Haven't played it though. I'm
Hmm.
like, that
Yeah,
checks.
well, yeah, no, that's the Chase Kennedy promise. But I thought, okay, this is a great time to get started on it, and it's not clicking. It's not clicking with me, and I'll admit I don't think I gave it enough time. I
Yeah.
probably should give it more time, but my issues with it are twofold. One of them, again, I'm pretty early, but I don't really like the story. I think
Oh.
I think it feels. Trying to find a nice way to say this. It feels like one of those kinds of anime that is trying to be really philosophical and cool, but also kind of feels like it's not saying anything.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of silence or a lot of cryptic stuff, and hoping that people think it's cool. And it could just be me. It could be me not getting it, but I'm not clicking with it.
Okay.
It's a similar feeling to when I watched an anime that Bobby obviously is familiar with, since he's familiar with all anime, Serial Experiments Lane,
Oh yeah. That's
a
right.
very
It's
well
just
loved anime. And when I watched, and I enjoyed parts of it quite a bit, but there was some stuff where it's just like, I don't know, it feels like there's just some philosophical jacking off going on here, and
sure.
I don't feel like I'm getting anything from a story perspective. And I felt similarly about Thousand Times Resist. Um, the other problem is I just don't think it's very fun to play. I
Mm.
mean, I know it's a visual novel, but it's not. It wants to be more than just a visual novel, in that it's more than just kind of like pressing the A button. You have a 3D character that you're walking around a pretty ugly space, and I think all the movement stuff in that game is bad because it's a
All
visual
right.
novel, not a platformer. But like moving around these spaces is not fun. There's a time travel mechanic where you can kind of zip back and forth through things to get through puzzles, but I just didn't find it enjoyable at all. The voice acting is not very good. Everybody is just like a it's just like really quiet as they talk into the mic, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, turn up the fucking volume. What are we doing here? I'm not clicking with it at all. I think it's got an interesting premise, but I'm just having a real tough time. So I only played a few hours of that, and I just don't think it's for me. I appreciate that everyone else is liking it, but it's not for me.
Damn.
Then I tried Arco, which is a game that I've been really excited about because I follow one of the
Yeah, we
developers
played the
on.
demo of it.
Yeah, we did that. I followed a developer on Twitter when I was still using Twitter. I guess I follow him still on Blue Sky. So I was getting to see a lot of their pixel art. I think the game looks fucking gorgeous, and I was really excited to get into it. But it scared me a little when we played the demo, or I watched you play the demo, because it also didn't really click with us there.
Mhm.
It felt like we weren't quite understanding what it wanted from a combat
Yeah, it was a little
perspective.
confusing for sure.
Yeah, so I was a little worried that like maybe this isn't what I'm wanting here. But I did see Patrick Klepek from Waypoint say that he thought it had the best combat of any game this year, and I went, okay, maybe we just missed something. Let's give this another chance, and let's jump in myself and see what happens. And I think it actually has some really cool stuff, and we just kind of didn't get in our brains the right way when we played the demo.
Okay.
I didn't play too much of this. I only played a few hours of this as well, but I think it's got some really cool ideas with its skill trees and the way that you are able to dodge or jump in, or I got like a slap attack that doesn't cost any action points to use, and it just disables the enemy's attack. So like that's a way of like, oh, this guy's about to shoot me, just like smack him, and then it gives me like a turn as he like has to reload or whatever, and then I can get more time. Or you learn the way that spacing works, where I can dash in, do an attack, and then dash out before the enemy has a chance to hit me with something. There's like some really cool crowd control options that you get in there. There's a way that you can mix your bow and your like physical attacks, your slaps or kicks or slashes, and I liked the way that some of that stuff worked. And then I think it also has like a nice kind of, I wouldn't quite call it a visual novel exactly, but it does have a lot of story and text in it that I'm also
Sure.
really enjoying. And it feels like a Western kind of
Oh yeah,
feel.
yeah. It had a really cool vibe to it for sure.
And I'm really digging that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been cool. I think if I had played that earlier, I probably would have played more of it and might be a bigger champion of it. But the parts that I did play were pretty cool. I will say I went down a skill tree maybe a little too hard and kind of specialized in a thing that made a couple fights really bad when they probably didn't have to be so bad. But even still, figuring out how to puzzle that fight out with the limited resources I had was pretty cool. And I didn't have to do that fight. I could go and do something else, and in fact, I did eventually, and got like some extra points, and then came back. And then I got a second character, which and now you're balancing all that stuff up with two people, and I was like, oh shit, okay, now it feels like stuff just leveled up because all of the same kind of decisions I was making with one character, now I'm doing with two, and it really is like double the amount of brain power in there, and so I really enjoyed the stuff I played with Harco.
Nice, man.
And lastly, I won't spend too much time talking on this because we have talked about it on the show before, but I started to play Metal Slug Tactics myself, and I think that game is great.
Good.
I think that game has some greatness to it. It was I think my most anticipated game from last year.
Oh, big time!
I watched
listed.
I watched you play it on some Casual Mondays. I know it wasn't quite clicking with you. But like when I sat down and watched tutorials and understood some of the mechanics of that game, I started to really like see the Matrix in that way and go, oh, okay, I've got to move characters like this, and oh, I can get the power like that. Because I will say, like the first hour that I was playing that, I was like, I don't know if I'm understanding what they want from me here. And
I
then
think that's what
it
I
just
was beating my head against.
Yeah. And I think our problem is that when we play it like an hour each week for a Casual Monday, we forgot everything we remembered the last time, and then we were coming back and you're having that issue. But when I sat down and really played a good chunk of it, I started to get some real strategies. I won my first run, and I think I only had one character go down
for that, right?
Once. Do what?
You sent me the screenshot for that, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I sent you the screenshot. So here, couple things. One, this game runs like shit on the Switch. It is incredible how poorly this game runs. Like there is slowdown, there is audio sync issues. Like there would be times where like a character would, shoot, and then you'd hear the shot 2-3 seconds later, and you're like, Jesus Christ, this shouldn't be that bad.
When's the next Switch coming? God damn it!
Hopefully soon.
Not soon enough.
Yeah. I think also playing on a controller, not the best. I prefer it on a controller because I don't want to play with a mouse and keyboard, but I think it doesn't feel optimized for a controller in the same way some of these other games feel. And that is also the last problem, which is a problem we've talked about before. The more I played this, the more it just hit me that like, oh, this is just Into the Breach. Like this is a game that wants you to beat it multiple times. It wants you to beat it with multiple combinations of characters and trying different loadouts as you play.
So that was
it's all about beating it multiple times.
Yep.
And I don't want that. I wanted this game to be like a one-time experience. I wanted it to be more like a triangle strategy.
Tactics.
Yeah, I wanted it to be a Final Fantasy Tactics. I wanted it to be a Fire Emblem. I wanted it to be like a longer story where I grow my characters as I go.
I'm with you. Like I was caught off guard when that thing came out. And I'm like, oh, this is a run-based game. Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, and that can be cool too. Again, Into the Breach is one of my favorite video games of all time, but also Into the Breach is one of my favorite video games of all time. I have that. I have the game.
Arguably the best of the genre.
It absolutely is, and we've had this discussion when it comes to other run-based games in other genres. You're like, am I going to play this over Into the Breach? And the answer is, I don't know. I mean, I think there's some stuff I like, but
if you and I were facing a Monday night, we're like, dude, kind of burnt. What do you want to play? Something easy that we both love. I don't think I would ever get to a point where I'd be like, let's play Metal Slug over Into the Breach. I'm like, let's just fire up Into the Breach and do some runs there.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool that like
that's not
there's
taking. It's not fair to put that game next to Into the Breach. Let's be real.
Sure, right. I mean, but they put it next to Into the Breach by
That's
making
fair.
a game that's so similar to Into the Breach.
That's fair.
And I think there's some really good stuff here, and I'm still enjoying playing it. But once the newness wears off, you're left with this game's just not as good as Into the Breach. In the same way that we would have this conversation about, Fights in Tight Spaces is better than blah blah blah. Balatro is better than blah blah blah. And we just get into these, thoughts of like, well, I don't need multiples of these.
I think it's what I mean, you have an iPad mini, you've got your phone in front of you.
Yep.
Having this phone that opens up into like an iPad mini has made me way more invested in playing a game like Balatro now that way. And I think having Into the Breach on my phone, I'm considering firing it up there and just trying to like see what that plays, because it plays really well.
Well, you still have a Netflix account, so you can do that.
Totally.
I cannot.
Totally. But I think I will absolutely play the next time we're live on a Monday. I'll play Metal Slug again with you.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. Yeah, I think you'd have a lot more fun if I was able to like teach you some of the tips and tricks I learned as I was playing that.
That's what I would
learning about
love.
like how to mitigate damage more than we had before, how to use skills more effectively. But I did end up having a pretty solid time with Metal Slug, but it also just very much got to the point of like, oh, I know what this game is, and it's just not as good as the game that I'd rather be playing at this point.
Right on. So Chase, you and I both been playing Metaphor. I gave an update on Dragon Age and Balatro. You did not drive with 1,000 times resist. It seemed like you were getting the combat in Arco.
Yeah,
and it seems like Metal Slug Tactics, your 2024 most anticipated game, is living up to those expectations.
Yeah, it's close. It's just not quite there, and it makes it all the more frustrating when it's not there.
Well, if you would allow me to take you on a journey for the next 9 or 10 minutes here, maybe a little bit
Please.
less.
Where are we going? Somewhere nice? Somewhere serene?
I think.
Is it warm? Is there a beach?
Yes, it's warm nuclearly. As a matter of fact.
Okay.
I've been playing Stalker 2, Chase, and for the uninitiated, Stalker stands for scavenger.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask you because I was going to say, Bobby, I think you mean S period T period A period L period L K period E. Yeah. So what does Stalker stand for? I don't think I've ever known this.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. It's scavenger, trespasser, adventurer, loner, killer, explorer, and robber. It represents the different archetypes of individuals coming into the zone.
Okay.
And
sure.
you play one of them. So if you say you're a stalker, like, well, which one of those things are you? And I think that's the premise of this game. And that's a really, really cool thing to think about now that like I'm going into it as a quote unquote stalker.
Which one do you think you fit in the best?
So far I feel like I have been somewhere between a trespasser, an adventurer, but mostly a scavenger. And
you have scavengy vibes.
Yeah, it's absolutely what I've been doing here. So I have not played any other Stalker game before. So this is my first time doing it.
Well, there's only 2 of them, Bobby.
That's
not true. That's not true. There's
true
more
at all. This game came out, by the way, for those of you who are keeping tabs on it. Let me pull this up here. This game came out on November 20th. I'm playing this on the PC via Game Pass. This is by GSC Game World. They have put out a handful of other games like this one in the Stalker universe. I think the first one was 2007. I'm pulling this up really quick. Yes.
I remember them talking about Stalker on the 1UP show, like one of the early 1UP show episodes.
This was the first one
ago.
came out in 2007. They did a follow-up, or I think it was either an expansion or a prequel, if I'm not mistaken, that came out in 2008. And then in 2010 they put out another one, and then that's when the studio went under. So like that's a crazy. There's a documentary I want to read about this or watch. On this.
Was the second one like Pripyat something, like Call of Pripyat?
That was the last one that they did. So you
Shit.
had
Okay.
Shadow of Chernobyl, then you had Clear Sky,
Right.
then you had Call of Pripyat.
Okay.
And then this one here is the Heart of Chernobyl, and it has been just a fucking wonderful game. I will tell you, if you're a fan of the Bethesda games like Fallout, you're going to find a lot to like here. I see it somewhere between like a Dying Light and a Fallout, but a lot more polished. There's still some, funkiness with it around the edges of it, but all in all, I think that there's something very haunting about this game. The world that you're in is very beautiful at times, but very unforgiving and just downright unenjoyable visually.
Yeah, I remember like back in the day, it felt like there was the Metro games, which are always like, yeah, it's
Correct.
like a wasteland, but it's sillier and there's monsters in it and whatever. And yeah, it's dark, but it's also a little fantastical. Whereas Stalker always felt way more grounded and
for sure
depressing.
There's like mutants, right? But there's a lot of different factions that you're going to, and those factions, kind of depending on what you're doing as a stalker, you have kind of free reign to go. And you're a loner, they can hire you for missions. They might be against stalkers altogether. So it's really interesting to see how the world perceives you while you're trying to figure out how to perceive the world around you. And what I will tell you is this game can go sideways quickly, and you have a lot of creative freedom on how you solve problems, but also how people solve you. And there has been a lot of bait and switch, a lot of people who play into you and what you're going for. So like if I'm trying to be somewhat altruistic, but also just, hey, I need to live, people will pick up on that and they'll play you for it, and they'll put you in positions that compromise you to get what they want. And so I really have loved the writing. I love the premise of what it's doing to like get you into these situations where you have to make a decision. And obviously, like at the core of what you're doing, you want to survive. But like, how lucratively do you want to live? And how much do you want to take with you? Who do you want to side with? Why do you want to side with this person? Like, what do you really know who this person is? You just met them and now you're going to pick up a quest for him. Like, those are things that I never really thought about in other games that I would play, where it's, I'm doing these quests, but like, why? Because I want something from it? Or is it because I really appreciate who the person is or what the goal of this mission is? Like, there's a purpose.
It also seems like it's much more about, there's not necessarily a good outcome. Like, what's the outcome that mitigates the most bad, or what helps me out, or helps, like, it's more of like it's more of a moral question than it is a question of, whether you can get all of the shit. Like, it always feels like when you play a Fallout game, I guess there's some missions where, you really only get two options. But most of the options, it feels like you get in a typical Bethesda game or a typical BioWare game. It's like, what's the meme? Is like, do you want to save the world or kill a basket of puppies?
Yeah.
Like, those are always the two options. And so it's nice when a game like Stalker says it can be more nuanced than that. Like, we're going to give you some actual choices that really affect things, and it's not just like a third choice that never mind, we can fix everything, we can fix everyone's problems. It's nice when they force you to actually make a decision.
Yeah, man. And like, I will tell you, people will play into that against you as well. Like, you might think you have picked the best thing and you've like thought it through and you're going to make it right and get the best shit, and you do not. We're getting close to my limit here, but what I'll tell you is the premise of it is you're going between all these areas of the zone. At one point in time, there was a second, so the meltdown with Chernobyl in the 80s. In 2006, in this world, there was another explosion that kind of expanded all this and mutated further. But in these labs, they were developing artifacts that would come through, and you can go out and solve shit with them. They give unique abilities. Some of these have trade-offs, and it's like how you pack them together. So you might find one, you have a scanner when you're walking around, it kind of goes on a radar to bring you into these anomalies that then you'll find an artifact within. And I found one today where it's like, hey, this is weak radiation. So that means that it's going to give me radiation if I have it. But it completely maximizes your physical protection. So that's really great, but there's a trade-off with it. But if I had like lead in my suit, or I had another artifact that had maximum radiation protection, so I just put that in and it completely negated what was going on. So now I have this protection on this gear that I have, and I could upgrade to have more of those artifacts on my person that you can really balance out and do some cool shit with. Like, hey, I'm going to go into this cave to get this loot, but there's chemicals there. I'm going to put this artifact on that's going to give me more chemical protection, but I might be a little bit more susceptible to bleeding. Okay, I'll take that trade-off on this mission. Weapons are really sparse in this game, so you got to be thoughtful on it. That's usually the currency. There are coupons, there's traders that you can find. There are named weapons that are really fucking rad. Like the stories that you get with those and like where they came from. I found a gun, apparently it was like the meta gun from the first one, and this thing just fucking rips. It's so cool. Like I found it, and they're little like puzzle platforming quests to get to it. You would like this game, Chase. 100%. You would like this game.
I believe that it's always been interesting to me from afar. Like I know I'm not usually like a survival game guy when it comes to like a hunger system, or I've played Fallout games where you have like the radiation that goes on, and it usually at like the difficulty levels that I've played, it hasn't really come into play that I'm like dealing with radiation. And like that's the thing that's always scared me off about a game like Stalker is, this game is actually going to take that stuff more seriously. And
for sure.
I find that I enjoy like the game parts of it, and I don't enjoy the management stuff from it. So that's always been a tough trade-off, but it does seem like there's some cool stuff in here that I would like.
One last thing I'll call out here. This development team has been through hell, literal hell. They have survived an actual invasion of Russia into Ukraine. They have left Ukraine because of that, and they've moved to another location. Part of the team had to stay back because they had military obligations to fight Russia. They did lose a member of their team to the war. Jeez. And there's a documentary that they put out on making this game because it was announced back in 2010. It's been a long time coming. They got the studio back together and they announced in 2018 they were working on this. It was going to come out in 2021. They literally got hit by COVID, shut down. 2022, when like right after they come back together, they get invaded by Russia.
Good God. And so, yeah, can't catch a break.
You can watch that on YouTube. I'm going to check it out. I'll report back on it, but it's been one of my favorite games of the year. I've put 30 hours into it so far, and I just don't see myself slowing down. I'm having so much fun with it.
You really enjoyed the Chernobyl show as well, right? Do you feel like watching that show has gained an appreciation for a game like this?
Oh my God, dude. I told Sarah I want to rewatch it because of this. Like, knowing like what that did, and they're talking about, we don't really know what's going to happen from this. Like we're still living in a period on this planet where we don't understand what happened there. And that goes into what this game's ethos is. Like, what is humanity in this world like that? Like, what happens to humanity? What happens to the world? Like this, there could be artifacts out there. Who the fuck knows? Like that, it's a fucking mutation. It's crazy to think about. But yes, that is one of the most brutal shows. The showrunner went on to do The Last of Us for HBO.
I couldn't finish it. It was a little too much for me. That usually doesn't happen for me, but Chernobyl was
rough.
Little tough for me.
rough one. Well, cool, man. Thanks for letting me go on that soapbox. I love that game.
Absolutely.
We have some video games though that are coming out apparently that we
not
should
a
talk
lot.
about.
Not a lot. I mean, you mentioned it early in the show that this is the time where yes, you can get like a sneak game coming out, like a stealth drop from like the Game Awards or things like that, or somebody just trying to like dump something before the holiday season ends. But also it's just kind of a graveyard. Like a lot of places have already put out their games because
this is always how it's been, in my opinion. Even when we were growing up.
December, I mean, the worry is like if you wanted to get on a Game of the Year list, you needed to be out before December. So the magazine people back then could have time to play your game and talk about what they're doing now. But you still have that to a degree. But there is the Game Awards, and there's also a bunch of dumbass podcasts like ours that we're going to do our Game of the Year stuff in December because that's the end of the fucking year. So. You need to have your games out before then so we can experience them.
I'm so excited to just play things without pressure for a few weeks.
It is nice. Isn't it always nice when we do that? And we could live like that all the time.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
I know. I mean, it's also terrible. It's like we've seen behind the curtain and we can't go back in a way.
But there are some cool things, even though we're getting.
There are some cool things. There are some cool things. This is certainly a time for more ports. that you might see, and we'll talk about some of those as well. But I'm really just trying to gear people up to let you know there's not a lot. I
No.
think we have like 8 games listed. We'll run through them probably pretty quickly here,
Yep,
but
totally.
there is still a little bit of quality, and who knows? We could certainly get a stealth drop at the Game Awards or something really cool. Bobby talked about some amazing games that came out in December's past.
Yeah.
But like what we got right now, we'll see. Let's start out with some free stuff. How's that sound?
I love a good free thing.
On PlayStation Plus this month, we've got 3 video games to look at. One of them is It Takes Two, which is that's a perfect game to come out.
Game of the year.
Yeah, a perfect game to talk about when you're talking about the Game Awards.
And the Castle Hour.
I never played It Takes Two.
Same.
I heard that it was good. I watched some stuff.
I just don't know if it would be a fun thing for you and I to play, since it's like all about divorce and shit. Like, I don't know if that would
I don't know if we'd get a heck of a lot out of it when we played. We'd probably be better playing what's the Prison Break one? I can't remember.
It's oh my god.
Yeah, I know.
God
it doesn't matter. Jacob Forrest games, you know, the games that he makes. But yeah, It Takes Two is out there, and you can play for free. I did add it to my library on PlayStation just to have it. Another one I added was Aliens: Dark Descent. Is this the one you played?
Yes, it's really good.
Okay, this is like the isometric-y one. That's okay.
Fucking
the
cool.
real time. Yeah.
It's very cool.
Very nice. And then the last one I didn't add. I probably should, but I have it on another console. Is Temtem, which. You were a big Temtem fan. I enjoyed some of my time with Temtem on the Switch. Yeah, you can play it free on your PlayStation.
It's in a weird place now. They've got a.
Is it? I believe it.
Yeah, it's in a weird spot.
I mean, they kind of are they the ones that pissed off their community by like going like, "Hey, we're not actually doing the stuff that we said before."
And they did ship. It was on the last Next Fest, and people raved about it. They've made a Survivor version of that with the different characters from Temtem. But talk about, Pal World came in and really stepped up in an area where I think Temtem occupied a few years ago.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, there was a time where it was like everybody needs to make their fake Pokemon game that's very much like Pokemon, and just like, let's see if we can tweak a thing here or there. And Temtem's tweak was we're going to do double battles and really focus on doing double battles well, because we think that's where the fun of competitive Pokemon is. And they're right. The double battles are way more interesting from a competitive standpoint. But then Pal World comes in and goes like, well, we're like doing a Pokemon game, but also tweaking, not just tweaking, we are changing huge swaths of what it means to be a Pokemon game by throwing in, Fortnite bullshit and crafting game bullshit, and we found like a new genre by combining all this stuff together, and it took the world by storm, and I think it's left games like Temtem and God, there's so many other ones too, that we could mention here. I've forgotten the names of most of them because most of them aren't worth remembering too much, but it does happen a lot. All right, let's talk about Game Pass, Bobby. I'll throw it back over to you. What's coming out to Game Pass this month?
Coming to Game Pass. I'm going to run through this. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled comes on December 4th. DayZ on the 4th. Goat Simulator on the 4th. Forza Motorsport on the 4th, which that's weird. I thought that was already there.
Was that a new one? Or
no? I think maybe it's like bringing it. Like Haunty is coming back, but I absolutely played Haunty this year on Game Pass.
Okay. So, it might have been gone for licensee reasons and came back.
Same. Humanity, fantastic puzzle game. EA Sports WRC.
World Rally Championship.
Rally Championship. We're on to the 5th now, by the way. Overthrown on to the 5th. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle on the 9th. Wild Frost. That was a really beautiful deck game. That was hard as shit that you and I played. Carry On. Really cool game.
Cool game.
Road 96. People seem to like that quite a bit too. All coming to Game Pass.
Sounds good. We'll talk about a couple of those coming up. Yeah. All right, let's run through these. Starting off, we're not going to show a trailer for this because it is just a port, but Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is coming to PS4 and PS5. Port of the Switch and PC game that came out earlier this May. People really like that game.
Some might say that's like the backlog game of the year, Chase.
It might be. It might be. I do feel really bad that I missed out on
Yep.
it. I like
Yep.
a lot of what that studio
Yep.
makes, and
Yep.
yeah, and feel bad I missed that one. And people seem to be raving about it, so
Oh
might
yeah.
be worth checking out at some point. Today, in fact, on the 4th, I did I download this?
I'm gonna get it right now. I didn't realize it
I
was out
think
today.
I think I pre-ordered it, and it just downloaded now. But Fantasia,
Oh shit, 50
Fantasia Neo
bucks.
Dimension. It is $50, which is
Fuck.
hard to swallow.
Oh, maybe I won't be getting that right
yeah,
now.
I know. It's tough.
Fuck me.
So here's the deal. It's coming to PC, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. So this originally came out in 2021 on Apple Arcade, locked only to Apple Arcade, and it's a subscription service, so it's basically free, right?
You can get an entire year of it basically for what this costs.
That's true, and they added more to it over time.
Yeah.
There was like a second part that got added, and then there's this version that now is finally free from Apple Arcade. This is now you can finally play it on a real thing, and yes, it costs $50. And I think a lot of that has to deal with I think Square is publishing it, and Square, they're always going to get their fucking blood money.
They will always get with their money.
Now, it's not just a port. There is some stuff here. There's some graphical improvements. There's some gameplay tweaks. And the biggest one is they've added English and Japanese voice tracks to the game. So fully voiced audio. That's pretty cool. That's a nice bonus. I really loved the idea of this game on Apple Arcade, and I just didn't like playing it on my phone. It had some mechanics where it was about like touching and dragging and doing attacks like that, and I just didn't. The using your finger felt a little imprecise, and I just didn't enjoy it very much at all. I really wanted to play with a controller. Bobby, you had like the Backbone controller, right?
Yeah,
so you played this with a controller,
really good with the controller,
and it seemed like you were having a much better time than I was. So
I would, when I get it, I'll play with a mouse and keyboard probably for the most part. I think
that makes sense. That makes sense. So I'm really excited to play this on a Switch, play it with a controller, and see how it functions, and finally get to play the game I know that I'm always going to like, and just finally get around to it. But yes, it is $50, which did hurt. It did hurt
a lot. Man. That's a hefty price for this thing.
For a game that is essentially 3 years old, just kind of getting ported, and I wish I wasn't paying $50.
There is, if I'm not mistaken, a pre-order bonus though, that you get something like that gets you some better experience in the game if you.
All right, if you we'll see what happens. Let's move on. Tomorrow, as we're recording this, or yesterday, if you're listening to this on Friday, Infinity Nikki comes out to PC, PS5, and mobile.
I don't know what to think about this, Chase.
Yeah, so we looked at this. Was this on like a? Where did we see this? I know it was on like a Nintendo Direct.
Nintendo Direct.
Okay, I thought it might have also been on like a Wholesome Direct or something like that. You look at it and you're like, oh, it's certainly like some Zelda style. Like, what if we took or some Genshin Impact? What if we took like a really big world and did stuff with it? Doesn't seem like there's really any combat to it. It's all about cute anime girl putting on dresses.
Very much.
Yeah, it's like a dress up game where it's got like some puzzly stuff into it. What I didn't know is that this is a franchise. This is like a full series that has. What? Yeah, this is the 5th Nikki game.
No,
there are a number of Nikki games. All have been on mobile before, which is probably why we have not been familiar with it. But there was even controversy at one point where I think it was the last Nikki game, Love Nikki, I think is what it was called, and it didn't get banned. It took itself off like South Korean stores because they added in some like traditional South Korean dress. And then like China like put their thumb on the scale and was like, hey, you need to tell people that's our traditional dress. And so they're like, oh yeah, this is totally like a Chinese style dress. And South Korea, like South Korean politicians got involved and were like, that's our fucking culture. And then the developers like, we're just gonna stop putting this game out on South Korean stores.
This does not look like what I thought this game would be.
Yeah, actually, maybe there is combat looked on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it
there's
was.
combat.
I thought it was much more about like just exploring a space, really
Hmm.
quiet, doing some dress up stuff. Like it does seem like the different dresses that you put on equate to different powers that can help you navigate the world. But it does seem like there's even a little bit of combat stuff in here. I don't know. It's certainly like a big step up from their mobile game
Well,
origins. Like they're
yeah,
really taking a big swing here. I don't think this is traditionally a game that you and I would be all that interested
no.
in, but there is something about like I don't know.
I
They're
think
they're trying
people,
something here.
I think people that like Infinity Nikki will really like Infinity Nikki.
I could see that. I
Yeah.
could see that. And you know, I didn't see anything here about microtransactions or anything like that. I think it is just a full game that you can play. Um,
Yeah, I wonder what the
who
price of
knows?
this will be on mobile.
I don't know. I don't know.
We'll see.
But interesting nonetheless.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Also on the 5th is Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop coming to PC,
All
Switch,
right.
PS5, and Xbox Series X. Bobby, I think this game looked really cool. I hadn't heard a single word about this
Same.
game.
Same. I
And
was like,
just
what the fuck
doing
is this?
yeah, and
Yeah.
just like that is kind of the cool thing for me when I go through and do these previews is
This
I
looks
get to look
really
at some
cool.
games and it's like, oh, here's a trailer for this thing that I never would have looked at before. And I don't know, this thing looks really cool. I'm getting like some vibes of Assemble with Care in the way that you're like manipulating
Yeah.
stuff and like fixing things. But there's also a little bit of like keep talking and nobody explodes in that you're
Papers, please, maybe.
fixing shit. Maybe a little Papers, Please in
Maybe
there.
a little Night
Maybe
in
a
the
little.
Woods.
I could see some of that. Maybe a little
Yeah.
like hard space shipbreaker in
Now we're
there in
talking.
terms
Now
of the
we're
vibe.
cooking. Now
But
that's a
it does
game.
seem it does seem like this is kind of like a roguelike thing, a run based thing where the idea is you have to like do these
This looks
things right
really
or learn
fucking
to be
rad.
an engineer for this shit. But it's got a vibe to it, man. It's got a
know.
style.
Let me see if they got a price for this yet.
I don't exactly know what it entails. The trailer is kind of funky in that way, but
Uncle Chops.
it does seem kind of cool.
Uncle Chops, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, there it is.
Uncle Chops Rocket Shop.
Let me go back to the game here so folks can see that really quick. This is coming out in 12 hours, but no price. It looks like there is a deluxe version of the game that you'll be able to get that will have a soundtrack, and then there's a deluxe skin and art book you can get. Well, this looks really fucking cool. I wonder if there's information about this on the internet for like other platforms, but that looks really fucking rad.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe this could be like a casual Monday game or something sometime.
Oh, I think I'm going to be grabbing this one for sure.
Yeah, it seemed cool. It definitely surprised me and excited me in a way that not a lot of other stuff this month did.
Yeah.
Speaking of games that do not excite or interest me at all, on the 6th, Marvel Rivals comes out to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X.
People are really excited about this, man.
I bet they are.
Like, you have to understand, Overwatch community is in a fucking state.
Sure, yes, they need a game to play.
They need a fucking win. And if you are into this type of thing, if character shooters are your jam, apparently this is really fucking well done. But I just have zero desire for multiple reasons to play a game like this.
Yeah, I had my hero shooter time. I played some Overwatch 1. I played some other games. I played a little Gundam Evolution when that was a thing.
By the way, have you seen they announced 5 new characters coming out for this? Have you seen what they've done to Wolverine for this?
Yes. So that I think is maybe the only interesting thing. And when I say interesting, I don't mean good, but it is the only interesting thing they've done with this game is that all the Marvel characters, and it's hard to see with Venom here because Venom kind of just looks like Venom, but all the other characters have gotten a real anime makeover.
Yeah, big time.
In a way that is for some kind of cool. I think there's some that are interesting. I like the takes on the characters that they've done.
Black Widow's cool looking, I think.
Black Widow, I think, looks kind of cool. Hawkeye looks cooler than most Hawkeyes I've ever seen, which is not tough to do. But for the most part, it just feels like you got your anime in my Marvel, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it's but I'm out of it. It's
Yeah.
a hero shooter.
Same.
I can't do it. I've had my time with that. It's not my jam. I'm not a multiplayer
Same.
game kind
Same.
of guy, and this is not changing that. So let's move on. You talked about it as a Game Pass game, but on the 9th, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle comes to PC and Xbox Series
Man.
X. Bobby, you want to take this one? I think you care much more about it than I do.
I don't.
Oh,
the
okay.
thing. But I have a lot of thoughts on it.
Are you an Indiana Jones guy?
Yeah. My wife is way more into this series than I am. I thought it was cool, but like growing up, I couldn't tell you which one was which. And I've talked to my cousin at length, who is my oldest cousin, Jason. He is a definitive Gen Xer. He was very impressionable at the time of Indiana Jones, and he was. But he, in my opinion, he is an avid gamer of the age when this would have been in its prime. You feel like, he's also a huge Bethesda fan. Like across the board, this is going to be a slam dunk. It's not even connecting with him. And while I think it'll be fine, I just have to wonder, given Indiana Jones in the 2000s, his movies have not critically hit at all, has not gained new people. I have to wonder why Indiana Jones. And I also have to wonder, and I know why they're doing it because it's Indiana Jones, but why even go with Harrison Ford? Like, just start a whole new thing, like what they're doing with.
Well, they tried. It's not going to be Shia LaBeouf. I know that.
Well, yes. But I feel like people are going to be a little let down that this is probably going to be a bit more slow and stealth driven from what the impressions are. They've been solid, but I think this is going to be a very demanding game to run on PC. I think it's going to... It's
very pretty. Like the trailer, incredibly pretty. I'm pretty sure they do not have Harrison Ford actually voicing this. Okay. Troy Baker doing a good Harrison Ford impression. The visuals, that looks like fucking Harrison Ford. That looks like young Harrison Ford. They really did some great facial work to make that happen. We've had this conversation. I just don't care. I just don't care about Indiana Jones. I've never been that guy. I never watched those movies growing up. I don't care about Tomb Raider. I don't care about Uncharted. The idea of like raiding tombs is not... Like, I had an Egyptian phase, which I guess overlaps Indiana Jones in some form, but this is just not my genre of stuff. I am much more, I imagine like you, much more into the space stuff. I was a Star Wars way over an Indiana Jones guy. It just...
Absolutely.
So it's always been tough for me. I just don't care about this stuff, but it does look pretty.
My wife wants to watch me play this. And so I picked up one of the new Fire Stick 4Ks. They had a bundle for Cyber Monday with Game Pass on it, because you can just use that as your Xbox now. I'm going to put that downstairs. I'm going to see how
everything's an Xbox now.
That's their literal campaign.
I know. So you can get a sticker that you can put on your PlayStation 5 that says this is an Xbox.
Yeah.
If you want to.
I'm going to try it over cloud and see how that does downstairs for us to play some of it, because it is I can't remember where it takes place in the movies. It is set between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade.
Okay.
So
isn't that's 2 and 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. I mean, another option. You could just like watch the game movie that somebody will make on YouTube within like the first 2 days, which
that's fair.
As I've watched a lot of video games that way, especially like games that I've played and just want to re-experience the story. I just watch the game movie on YouTube that somebody's made and go like, yeah, that was all right.
We'll see. I think this is gonna. I feel this is gonna get dragged pretty hard.
I could see it both ways. I could totally see this, getting a lot of press and being really critically acclaimed. I could also see it being dragged. And I just know that either way, it's not for me. I'm fine. I'll move on. Speaking of moving on, going on to the 10th, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered comes to PC, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. So these games originally were on the PlayStation and the Dreamcast in the early 2000s, and they've always kind of had this cult classic status.
Yep.
Did you ever play these games?
If I did, I will probably remember when I play it, but it's not sticking out right now as something I did play. But I think maybe I did.
Okay, I never did. I didn't own a PlayStation or a Dreamcast around this time, so I came much later to those consoles. I heard people talk about Soul Reaver and
Yeah.
Legacy of Kain, but I never played them myself. I know I have like Game Informer magazines where they're talking about them. I think they're kind of like Zelda games.
Totally.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just I just wonder. I mean, I've had not the best experience going back to these remastered versions of games from that period as my first time with it.
hmm
And I just don't think, I don't know. I
Do you think your problem has been when you say going back? So like playing these games for the first time.
Yeah.
So do you think the issue is more that you'd rather be playing it on like original hardware or something like
No,
that, or is
I
it
don't
more that just like, oh, these games control like they controlled back in the day?
it's that. And I think we didn't know then. It
Yeah,
felt great, but now like
it
I
was the
just
cutting edge. It was the best these
oh
games had ever
yeah.
played at that point, and now
Yeah.
they are not the best
100%.
games I've ever played. Yeah,
100%. So, I don't know, man. Like I feel a certain type of way, I guess, about it. Like on paper, I would love to have this as something I enjoy, but I just don't know if it's there for me.
yeah. It's tough when it's a game that you're experiencing for the first time,
Hmm.
but much later.
Yep.
Like because we both grew up with Pokemon. Like
Yeah.
we played Gen 1. We're used to all the bullshit that Gen 1 does. We can admit that it sucks. It sucks that you have to put your Pokemon individually into boxes. It sucks that you can't catch a Pokemon because your box is full and you
Yeah.
have to go and switch a box and do other bullshit like that. Like some of that stuff, like it sucks that you don't know what the name of the TM is until you try to use it. Like there's a lot of stuff that sucks in those games, but because we played them when we grew up and we remember the feel, when you go back you're like, oh yeah, that's just the quirk of the game, but I remember
Yeah.
how to deal with it, so it's fine. It's much more difficult when you're like, I don't know what the quirk of this game is, and so it just feels frustrating and terrible to me. I don't
Hmm.
want to do this. um, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they've done a pretty good job with the remaster, and all these trailers you see, here's what it used to look like and here's what it looks like now, and it does look cleaner. So I think they've done good work. It doesn't look like shit.
Yeah.
um,
No, by
but
no stretch.
yeah. Let's move on. This is our last game of the month. There's certainly other games. We're
Yeah.
not covering all the games here, but we're ending this on the 10th. So not a lot to pull from. There was maybe only a couple other games where I was like, this might go in, but even then I was like, we can skip this one. It's not important. But this one, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind, comes to PC, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. It's one of those throwback brawler 2D
I know,
games.
man. I know. It looks like something I would love playing, but I always end up just being like, I think that I'd like to be an arcade playing this, not at
Yeah,
home.
that is always the case where it's like these games look pretty. I think they've got some great ideas to them.
If we had
Uh,
like a 5 or 6 man crew and we did this
Absolutely.
shit more, where it's like, hey, we need to make some content where we're all playing something, like we would have a blast doing this.
This would be a great casual Fridays thing if we
Yeah.
had a group of people who were all excited and all downloaded it and all jumped in and wanted to play it.
Yep.
Um, we just don't have that,
Nope.
and I don't think these games are very fun to play on your
No.
own. Even if you had them on like free play, and I've certainly enjoyed some like old brawlers that you just like, play your like Mr. Copy or play it on whatever you have emulated stuff, and you just are able to throw in as many credits as you want. You just run through it and you see it like, oh, it's kind of cool to see all the visuals from a game like this, or all the visuals from a game like The Simpsons Arcade. Um, like I know you and Jason and Johnny played the Ninja Turtles one
Yeah. Jiggy
and
was
the
there too.
Shredder's Revenge, and had a good time with it. And this
Had a
seems like it
blast.
would be a similarly interesting time. But these games just, I I guess people are buying them and enjoying them, and that's great. They feel like a bygone era, and it makes me sad. Like I do like games like Scott Pilgrim or like the old Streets of Rage, or even Streets of Rage 4. Streets of Rage 4 I remember came out and was pretty popular, and got people excited in the genre again. Castle Crashers, those kinds of games,
big time.
But they're just not that fun to play solo, and it's just kind of something that's like, who's this for at this point? And it's not for us. That's a shame, because I like what this is doing.
Well, let's talk about the games that are for us.
Yeah, let's do that. Bobby, why don't you start? What are your picks for the month of December?
I'm going to play Indiana Jones because I have Game Pass and I want to play it with my wife. Sure. I am going to be picking up Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop, and I may have picked up Fantasian against my better judgment.
Wow. $50 down the drain.
I don't have Apple Arcade anymore. Well, I think I do on my iPad, but anyway, like this is something that I think will be really cool.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I've been talking about wanting this game off Apple Arcade and cannot wait to actually play it once it's on anything that wasn't Apple Arcade. And now I got to put my $50 where my mouth is and buy Fantasian and play Fantasian. And I'm really excited to. I don't think I'll be playing it this month, or at least not for the next couple weeks, because we have Game of the Year coming up, and this is not going to be on any of those categories. Yeah. And I can wait until I'm free. But I am excited still to play Fantasian Neo Dimension. And then I also have Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop, because I think that thing looks really cool. I don't know if I'll end up buying it, especially if Bobby just buys it for me and I can watch him play it on a casual Monday. But, if it's cool, I could absolutely see myself buying this as well and playing through it, because it did just charm me. It just charmed me.
It looks
when I watched that trailer.
Right on, man. Well, you can find our show on Blue Sky as The Casual Hour. We're also on Threads under the same name. We are going to be a little wonky for a bit. We'll be live next Thursday, checking out the Game Awards with Jeff Keighley, and then we'll have our Game of the Year stuff after that. And then we'll get a bit more back on a routine, and we'll let y'all know what that's going to look like. But for the next few weeks, it's going to be wild. So that's what we've got going on. Chase, what about you?
Yeah, I'm excited to get to Game of the Year. We've talked a lot about how it's going to work this year with just two people. I think we've come up with some ideas that are going to be interesting, or let us talk about a lot of different games, and hopefully show some people some stuff that needs a little bit more love, and maybe that affects some stuff, and that'd be great. But what have I been doing? I've got a couple things. There is a relatively new episode of Pilot Program with my good friend Pierce Corshane that is out. We watched Monday Night Football from 1970. 1970. That's right. It was a blast. It was a blast to talk to Pierce about football. He cares a lot more about football than I do, so he got to impart some knowledge to me with football. We got to watch old 1970s commercials, which was a lot of fun, and talk about some of those things. A real great time. We've announced that our next episode is going to be on the Anthony Bourdain show, A Cook's Tour. Cool. That was on the Food Network. So that's going to be exciting. A show that I haven't seen. I've seen like No Reservations and those things like that, but I think this was his first show. So that'll be a really exciting one. And we can talk about the history of Food Network, which will be a weird one. Sure. But that's pretty cool. So go to shows.acast.com/pilotprogram and check that out, and all our previous episodes. And then I also have a YouTube channel, Chase K Plays, where I play video games. And currently I'm playing through the Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy Color with a little twist. I'm playing a ROM hack that adds in the Pokemon Neo Genesis expansion of cards into that game. That's been a lot of fun. It's a series I called I'm Just a Bill. The 7th episode came out today as of this recording, so go check that out. I made some mistakes and it cost me.
Oh boy.
So definitely go check that episode out. It's 2 hours long. Mistakes were absolutely made. I try not to make it 2 hours long, but things happened in that episode. So go check that out and see how that ended up being a thing. But that game still continues to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks for this. Appreciate this. You always do a great job with these types of episodes, and we will be back on Monday with a video